What up people, it's Zach, welcome back, and today we're talking about the new One Piece chapter, One Piece chapter 1018. We gotta talk about Tama turning the tides and why I still think it's a strong indicator of where the story is heading. Of course, we got Jinbei's first official 1v1 fight as a Straw Hat against Who's Who, and also of course Who's Who straight up snitching on the world government and dropping even more bombshells. The title of this chapter is titled straight up Jinbei versus Who's Who. Of course, when I first saw that, I was very excited not only to see Jinbei in a 1v1, but also the information that Who's Who was gonna drop. This week we also got a pretty cool cover page request with page 1 and Ulti. As far as I know, I'm pretty sure that they're the first newer people that got a cover page request. These two have been fan favorites among the Toby Roppo members, have gotten a lot of fan art, so it's cool to see Oda do his own version of a fan art of them essentially. I also joked that he gave them this cover page because he kind of felt bad for them. But yeah, personally I love page 1 and Ulti, and even though they might be done now, I definitely expect to see them more in the future. But jumping into the chapter, we have to talk about Tama's impact and how she completely changed the tides of this war. Last chapter she gave out the commands to change the gifters on the side of the samurai, and as I mentioned in my last chapter review, realistically the number of people that got changed is at most 500 because there's only 500 gifters, but they're gonna make more of an impact. So I guess that the gifters would do a lot of damage, but even I didn't think that they would take out 2,000 people in the blink of an eye. Also, I completely did not think of the idea that they would have their subordinates who will also switch sides as well. And in this chapter we get another update from the CP0, and now the numbers are 16,000 to 9,000, which is still a decent advantage for the Beast Pirates, is still near double. But when this battle first started, it was 30,000 versus 5,400, so the samurai have come a long way. Even in just the initial battle, the samurai were making a lot of ground. Now that they have even more allies and the gifters as well, who are pretty much the strongest Beast Pirates underneath the Toby Roppo, this numbers advantage means nothing for the Beast Pirates. With the next update, it might be something like 10,000 versus 8,000. And honestly, I think with how close the numbers are right now, it's looking like the samurai should win this war as long as the stronger people are taken out. So right now for me, there's kind of a positive vibe and some progression because we only really have to rely on the Straw Hats winning their battles. Going forward, we should get more 1v1 battles, maybe more Toby Roppo losing, maybe some of the commanders losing. Like I could already picture a scene where Luffy is about to land this final symbolic attack on Kaido, and you got all the people of Wano, all the Beast Pirates that have turned just cheering him on. So as of right now, if I had to bet on it, I don't see the raid failing and everybody losing, but still I'm not really opposed to it because if it happens now, I would be really surprised. It'd really elevate the stakes of this war to something like pre-time skip Marineford, and I think that would be a very exciting way for the story to progress if it does happen. But as of right now, I think it's more likely that the raid does succeed, and you gotta give it up to Tama because she's completely changed the tides of this war. As far as I'm concerned, she's done her part. She has the gifters on the samurai side. Everybody's having a good time, which by the way, if you're having a good time watching this video, drop a like for the YouTube algorithm. But yeah, Tama I think for now has played her role, but I am still interested on what Usopp and Nami are gonna do next. Currently both of them are still pretty active and good to go, and the opponents that we thought they were gonna fight are already knocked out. I think for Usopp we still need to see more out of his observation hockey, and Nami now officially has Zeus, which was a pretty wholesome moment in this chapter as well. At first Nami kind of trolls him, but then officially accepts him as a sidekick, so now she's gotten a lot stronger as well, and honestly I want to see more out of her powers. But right now I don't really have a good guess on what they're gonna do next, so if you have any ideas, let me know in the comments. But moving on from that, we get to the CP0, who also reveals some information on Who's Who. Through them it's confirmed that Who's Who is a rogue CP9 member that broke out of prison, so as of right now it does seem like he's completely broken free and not on some like super secret mission from the world government. It's also interesting that they haven't really verified his identity, which explains why Who's Who is wearing a mask. Now personally I thought that maybe he has ties to the Three-Eyed Tribe and that's why he had the mask. Of course some people thought he was Jin, but it turns out he's probably just a regular guy. I am still pretty interested on what exactly he's gonna look like and what Oda's design is for him. And another funny thing to point out is that he's probably been trying to hide his identity, which means that Who's Who is not his actual name, but like that's gotta be the worst code name that you could come up with. This man actually thought to himself like, oh man, I'm gonna need a new name to really hide my identity. Let's go with Who's Who. But yeah, I expect in the future we'll finally see his actual face and get his real name. Because of this CP0 conversation, I do expect the CP0 to confront Who's Who in the future. I think X-Drake should be involved as well. I might do an entire video on the CP0 and Sword and their roles in Wano, because I do think that's gonna be a very important subplot. But for the time being, the CP0 are just gonna let him be for two reasons. First off, one of the members say that the information that he knows is not that important and it's not really gonna affect the world government, but nevertheless, Who's Who has no loyalty at this point. He he just straight up snitches on them later in the chapter. But the bigger reason the CP0 are not really worried is because Who's Who is going up against Jinbei. And I really love this moment of the CP0 gassing up Jinbei, and it served as a perfect transition into the fight. And this fight of Jinbei versus Who's Who was a really good fight. It took up a good portion of the chapter. It was dope to see Jinbei in some action showing more of his moves, but also Who's Who busting out the Rokushiki and some of his Devil Fruit powers as well. For a lot of the fight, Who's Who is just spamming the Fang pistol with poison attached, but meanwhile Jinbei is kind of tanking it and showing that he has speed as well by dodging some of the attacks. He's showing off he has very strong armament haki, hits him with the RKO later as well, and of course in a little bit we'll talk about the ultimate move he busted out. But the other thing we have to talk about is Who's Who just spilling the beans this whole time during the fight. Honestly, somebody needs to get Who's Who a therapist, man. He just needs somebody to talk to. Like, this man is supposed to be hiding from the world government and hiding his identity, but not only does he name himself Who's Who, but the first chance he gets to talk to somebody, he just spills the beans. CP0's over there is like, he doesn't know anything, don't worry about it. And then next chapter, we're gonna see Who's Who about to lose to Jinbei and like, oh wait, no, I think I know what the One Piece is. But yeah, in this chapter, he talks a little more about the Gomu Gomu no Mi and the red hair pirates. Now, he specifically talks about Shanks as the one he has a grudge against, which is actually pretty interesting because as I mentioned in my video about the Gomu Gomu no Mi, in a previous Viva card, it was actually noted that Lucky Roo was the one that specifically stole the fruit. So it's kind of interesting that Who's Who is pointing out Shanks and not really talking about Lucky Roo at all. But I do think that this confirms that Shanks was actually there when they stole the fruit and not off somewhere else like fighting Blackbeard and getting his scar. I don't know who would come up with that theory. But yeah, after Who's Who talks a little bit about Shanks, he becomes a certified clown. Nonchalantly, he just calls Jinbei a slimy fishman, and Jinbei just kind of looks back at him. It's like, dude, what the hell? It's 2021. We don't talk like that anymore. Honestly, I thought Jinbei was pretty chill about it. If there were like some teenagers there, Who's Who definitely would have gotten canceled, especially because Kaido is apparently quite the progressive himself. But moving on from that, Who's Who is kind of getting his ass beat, but at the same time, he's still trying to have a conversation. And once again, he drops the bombshell info about the sun god Nika. So essentially, the story here is one Who's Who was locked up in prison. A guard had like mockingly and jokingly told him to pray to the sun god Nika, and eventually that guard actually got in trouble for doing that and got sent away. But for the sun god Nika, apparently he was this warrior that the ancient slaves believed would save them. He was like their hope that would come along and bring laughter to everybody and end the suffering. And honestly, based off of that description alone, you're gonna get a connection to Joy Boy. Of course, there's a lot of info surrounding Joy Boy, so I'm not gonna break down all of it. Maybe I'll save it for another video. But pretty much from what we know, Joy Boy is this prophesized person that's supposed to come through and save everybody. Of course, he also has the name Joy Boy directly connecting him to laughter. Also, as a lot of people have pointed out, there's been so many connections to the sun and the dawn of the new world. We've actually even seen many people in the story before mention the sun god. Once with Mother Caramel and Elbaf, and also some of the Shandorians and Skypiea. And speaking of Skypiea, a lot of people are pointing out this silhouette of Luffy, which looks a lot like the sun god. Now, first off, with all these previous mentionings of the sun god, I think that just proves that the sun god exists in ancient cultures. The Shandorians, of course, are connected to ancient history, and I'm guessing the Giants of Elbaf are as well. Throughout the story, we've also seen all these different symbols that are relating to the sun as well. Now, as far as what this could all mean, I don't really have a good answer for it. My best guess right now is that the sun god Nika is essentially Joy Boy, and I think all these hints about bringing on laughter and the connection to the dawn of the new world and the sun makes it more likely that Luffy is Joy Boy, because essentially that's what he's been doing throughout the entire story, and he literally rides on the Thousand Sunny. Now, the whole prophecy element of this, I'm still a little iffy on, but we'll probably save that for another video. But anyways, besides all the sun god information, I think it's interesting that Who's Who revealed that he broke out of prison himself, because if he actually just broke out himself, I think it's less likely that he was actually an Impel Down. Plus the fact that he's talking about slaves and he's a CP9 member working for the world government, maybe he was locked up in Marijois. And what's interesting is that he asked Jinbei about the sun god because Jinbei is from the Sun Pirates. So coincidentally, this kind of has a loose connection to Fisher Tiger and how he freed the slaves at Marijois. But honestly, Who's Who kind of stumbled into that because his logic was very off. Like, this man legit thought Jinbei knew something about it because Jinbei is from the Sun Pirates and the Fishman has a history of slavery. And pretty much after that, Jinbei had enough. He was over it. Who's Who's just going at Jinbei now with a bunch of finger pistols, talking a bunch of trash. And Jinbei not only tanks all of it with his haki, but his armament haki was so strong, he straight up breaks Who's Who's finger. And from that point on, it was full on clapback season for Jinbei. Straight up grabs Who's Who, which makes him yelp in pain, tanks another attack, and then hits him with the ultimate attack, Demon Brick Fist. Straight up just punches Who's Who in the mouth. I would love to see next chapter Who's Who's fangs break. That would be kind of a callback to Arlong, which would be kind of fitting. But yeah, essentially Jinbei destroys Who's Who. I'm not sure he's completely done, but I've been saying for a while I think Jinbei should win this one pretty easily. And honestly, at this point, I'm excited to see what's next for Jinbei because I could see him going to Big Mom because there's still a storyline there. And this could also give Who's Who a chance to go get involved with the CP0 plotline. I also do feel like there's a chance that Jinbei actually knows something about the Sun God and the Sun Pirates, so through him we might find out more by the time Wano ends. But overall for me, this was a solid chapter, good action, good setup, so I'm excited to see what happens next. That's it for this video. Thank you guys for watching. If you want to know my thoughts on Luffy's Devil Fruit, check out this video right here. Check out my other links in the description. I'll see you guys next time. Peace!